It's
What?
showing me, yeah, hide self view. Okay, good. I can just see you now. So I'm just looking at you in your very Hawaiian, very tropical shirt.
Well, I
I love
wanted to
it.
wear something kind of in the vein of Jimmy Buffett to commemorate his
Oh,
untimely
okay.
passing, you
All
know?
right. Well, yeah, no, I mean, I think we might as well just get into it. So, talk about
Yeah.
the Queen Witch and some other exciting topics. I really have nothing to like really hammer on, so
Well,
you
we're
can just
recording
kind of
right now.
start.
I
We are
mean,
recording.
we're into the podcast. This is the
Yes, we're in.
podcast.
Okay, okay.
So so yeah, I wanted to wear something to commemorate the passing of Jimmy Buffett because remember a few weeks ago or a few months ago, whenever it was, I can't keep track of time anymore. But you were talking about how Taylor Swift, who we're going to be talking about in greater detail in this podcast, because that's what this podcast is basically. You were complimenting her on what a great businesswoman she is.
Yes,
And let's give props to Jimmy Buffett for creating
correct.
an entire empire off of one stupid song with like three chords. Like, can you name another Jimmy Buffett song other than Margaritaville? No, the answer is you cannot. Don't even try and think about it.
Mm,
You can't. They don't exist.
I think it was just like picking a Crosby, Stills, and Nash song. And Southern Cross Jimmy Buffett?
No,
No, it's
that's
Crosby.
Crosby, Stills, and Nash, far
Yeah.
superior musicians and vocalists. God rest Jimmy Buffett's soul.
So Jimmy Buffett,
But
like I never understood or appreciated Jimmy Buffett's appeal until I went to Key West and I did visit Margaritaville. It's a very hokey kind of touristy spot. The actual Margaritaville bar and restaurant. But yeah, just going there, going to Key West and just in that environment, it's like a clean New Orleans, is how I try to explain it to people. If you've been to New Orleans, it's beautiful in a lot of ways in the French Quarter, but it's just gritty. It's very gritty. That's the best way. Grimy. Everything smells like urine. And it's almost a little disappointing when you go there. But I guess I don't drink. So I'm sure if I was like really wasted and there at like 2 o'clock in the morning, I would enjoy it. But Key West is really just like a cleaner, safer New Orleans. So it's beautiful. It's got these old buildings. Ernest Hemingway lived there, had this really cool house. But there's kind of like these little cottages that are similar to New Orleans, and it's a really great vibe. Like I don't drink. I'm not really that kind of person. I'm not a Jimmy Buffett fan. But when you go to Key West, it's really great. Like I really enjoyed it, and I never thought I would be somebody that would enjoy that whole scene. But I highly recommend it. I love Key West. It was great.
well, I never thought that I would be somebody who would have moved to Florida, but here I am. I've never been to Key West before, but it is on my list, and I guess I really have no reason to go to Louisiana then from what you're describing because I lived in New York City for a little bit, and that's plenty grimy and urine filled for a lifetime. So
Now, I have to say, in New Orleans' defense, that I recently read Confederacy of Dunces, and it's set in New Orleans, and I kind of want to go back now just because of the book. Like, it made me appreciate New Orleans in a different way, even though I believe I had read. Yeah, I had read some other books that were set in New Orleans, but maybe ones that I didn't really like. I'm trying to remember. It was a very like feminist book where she kills herself in the ocean. I'm sure if somebody's listening, they might remember. They can put it in the comments. But I hated that book. I thought it was terrible. I thought she was a selfish psychopath, and I just didn't enjoy it. So when I was in New Orleans, I kind of thought about that. But now that I've read A Confederacy of Dunces, it's just such a great book. And it gives you this whole different vibe of New Orleans where there's a lot of Irish people that live there, but they have a very similar accent to the people of Long Island. And there's just like there's a different culture there that I had never learned that much about. I think a lot of us think of like the voodoo and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I wouldn't rule out New Orleans for a trip. It's definitely, I think, like there's the big blues festival. There's a lot that happens there. I think I went there for like a day, so I can't really say that. And I was much younger. I had just turned 18 years old. I was heading to college, and
You were just a baby at that point.
I was just a baby.
What did you know
Yeah.
about anything?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't. Yeah. So, I don't want to trash on New Orleans, but I will say that Key West is like a cleaner New Orleans, and it feels much, much safer. Like you walk around Key West and you do not feel, even, at night, like you do not feel unsafe. Whereas New Orleans, I would think, I do have to share a story real quick about New Orleans that I think
Of
is
course you do.
important for me because I am kind of throwing shade at New Orleans. So in the coal region, there is in Schuylkill County,
The
Pennsylvania.
skook. Oh, doesn't that just go right through you when you read that on Facebook? The skook.
The Schuylkill. It's kind of the mecca of culture and class, and but
And
there's
heroin.
just a different hair.
Fentanyl, probably.
Yeah, true. That actually hits like really hard, but yes, yeah. The Scoop has its own fun culture. We have their own whole region culture, and people that know me, as we've discussed before, know that I'm a huge fan of the coal region culture. But I want to share this story about a gentleman who is from the coal region. It was something of coal region royalty. So this is public information. So I feel like I can share the name. So as Collin and I both have probably never shared, we actually met working at a local radio station. At that local radio station, we would sometimes have on the air a gentleman who owned a jewelry store. And he owned a number of jewelry stores that were located, their home base was Pottsville, Pennsylvania. His name was Patrick Murphy. He was a third generation jeweler, and he had really expanded his family's business to include multiple locations, beautiful locations, just really a fun guy to talk to, really great at a very community involved person, beloved by the community, and really enjoyed being from Pottsville and was a big supporter of the community. So, said Patrick Murphy, I would speak with him on air once or twice a year, maybe 3 times a year. And I had talked to him around like the Super Bowl, and he was doing some kind of event, and we talked on phone, and that was that. So a couple weeks later, turns out Patrick Murphy was killed by a prostitute. Now he was married. He was a long time, wife of like 30 plus years or something like that, had 2 children. He was murdered by a prostitute who like lacerated, I think, sorry, but like cut him to death in New Orleans. They were down there for him and his wife were there for like a jewelry festival. He got this
Did he pay her?
prostitute. Maybe not. I'm not sure. And
What if she got
oddly
to
enough,
pay first?
so out of that, rumors kind of swirled that him and his wife were swingers, and he had taken this prostitute to some trashy hotel, and
As
that
we do.
prostitute, yes, as we do, and so he was killed. I mean, like really cut up. Like I don't know exactly all the details about it, but it was very gory, and he, so this prostitute later is featured on like a Netflix show. There's like a Netflix show called like Locked Up. I'm not sure if that's the name of the show, but it's something about like prisons. And there's an episode that a season of the show features this prison in New Orleans, and she is featured on that show. They don't like really discuss what she's like. They just kind of tell you on the maybe like the captions explain who she is. But yeah, so when I think of New Orleans, that's kind of part of it too. So I apologize to any aficionados of New Orleans or citizens of the beautiful city, but that's just my experience or my
I love the cuisine,
understanding.
and I feel like I kind of romanticized New Orleans a bit because
Absolutely.
I was a big fan of the HBO show True Blood. I don't know if you're
Okay.
familiar. It was on for like 7 seasons. It was the
Are those
vampire show.
vampires?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Sookie Stackhouse. It was a very trashy, garbage show that I would compare to, like, remember Smarties candy?
Yes.
The candy and you couldn't
Yes.
stop
Yeah.
eating Smarties.
Powder.
You would
Yeah.
open up the
Yeah.
wrap. That's kind of what this show was.
But you're like,
It
why
was
am I eating this? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. You knew that you were consuming garbage. It was gory. There was gratuitous sex and nudity all throughout it, even more so than like a Game of Thrones. But it had a certain type of charm, especially the first season. As a matter of fact, Karen, I recommend you watch the first season of True Blood just to see how you
Okay.
feel about it. But that's what I picture when I think of New Orleans. That
Or
and I also
vampires.
yeah, vampires and Jim Garrison, the former DA of New Orleans, who was the only person alive to bring anyone to trial for the murder of John F. Kennedy, which if you've ever seen the great Oliver Stone film JFK, which I highly recommend everybody go and revisit this November because it's going to be the 60th anniversary, I believe.
Oh,
Of
really?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It is. Yeah.
yeah, the 60th anniversary. So
Since
I
we
think of
lived
Jim
through it, it's hard
Garrison.
to believe, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So Jim Garrison.
yeah, so I think of Jim Garrison, the former DA of New Orleans. I think of vampires is Sookie Stackhouse and Vampire Bill. I think of like a good gumbo, like a good a jambalaya. So there's a chance that I may or may not visit New Orleans one day. Really, the main thing that prevents me from traveling is just the hassle of it all. Like I am interested in seeing other states, other cities, other countries, but I don't want to fly a commercial because it's such a hassle. I don't want to take any. It's a very stressful experience, especially if you're somebody who's prone to anxiety. Like there you are at the airport at 5 o'clock in the morning, and you got people screaming at you to take everything out of your pockets and get your laptop in the bin. And oh my God, you know what? I'll just stay home. That's how much I don't like that aspect of traveling. You're probably like, oh, Collin, don't you're such a drama queen. You're such a diva. Like, just
Yeah,
suck
I
it up and go through
understand
with
what
it.
you said, going early, and I wouldn't necessarily write off traveling, but I could understand like not wanting to. I actually drove to New Orleans from Pennsylvania, so
How long was that drive?
okay, so we drove to Alabama because I was going to college there. And my dad made me sleep on the side of the road instead of getting a hotel because he refused to pay more than $100.
That sounds about right.
So we slept about 45 minutes from Tuscaloosa, where I was going to college, on, with all the seedy individuals and lovely people that sleep in their vehicles, in their 4-person cabriolet. So we did that. And so that probably took, I don't even remember, maybe like 14 hours to get to Alabama. And then from Tuscaloosa to New Orleans, I don't remember, maybe 6 hours. I don't remember exactly. It was a long time ago. I was like a very, I guess because I'm a first generation college student, like instead of like going to all of the events the week of and like the orientation for freshmen, I just like dropped off my stuff at my dorm and just left and went to New Orleans. And then like
that
showed
also
up the
sounds very, very Karen-esque. That doesn't surprise me whatsoever.
Instead of like, I remember my roommate saying like, yeah, we walked around the campus to make sure we knew where we were going for the first day of class. And I was like, well, there's a map. So like, I don't I'm just going to do that tomorrow.
See, oh man,
I
see
made
you,
it
you really
okay,
flew
but
by the seat of your pants. I had to do a
yes,
whole
yeah.
walkthrough before the first day of classes. I'm like, oh shit, I have a terrible sense of direction. I have no idea where I'm going. I remember I had to find somebody who I knew from like high school that went there to have and she like showed me around, so I knew where I was going. And even then, it was still a very high anxiety experience trying to get to these classes in time. But looking back on it, though, I'll tell you what, I often I don't want to say that I pine for college, but I'll tell you what, those were much simpler times. And the moments that I look back on from college really had nothing to do with classes or any sort of activities. It was all just about me and the roommates sitting around and just laughing and bullshitting over nonsense. Though I want to go back to college just to do that. I don't want to take any classes. I don't want to major. I just want to go back to BS with everybody and hang out and watch movies.
You're like, I just want to be an unemployed. I just want to be on disability and 600 pounds.
Yeah, I want this deluxe luxury communism that I hear all the kids talking about.
Yes, come on, Bernie. Yeah.
Bernie. I'll tell you what a useless guy. When the going got tough, he said, "Oh, you know what? Never mind. Vote for Hillary Clinton. Forget everything I said. It was all bullshit."
Let's go to war in Ukraine. Let's go.
He threw up that white flag faster than anybody I've ever seen, 2 times in a row, screwed openly. But I don't mean to get off on that. But
sorry. But
anytime I hear that name,
somehow we started with Jimmy Buffett and we ended up talking about our college experience because I went to school down south and all this crazy stuff. And we'll have to get into that one day too. Like we should just have a conversation about your college. Well, we should do an episode about moving south because you've moved to Florida. I've moved to Alabama. Maybe we'll plan on that. That would be fun. That would be a fun show. But just the culture shock of coming from, not that it's a huge culture shock, but there's some shock. But you were talking about Jimmy Buffett, who he sadly just passed. And I believe he died of skin cancer, correct?
You know what? I have no idea, to be honest with you. I just know that he passed away. And I wanted to wear a tropical shirt in his memory for being such a shrewd businessman, for building an empire off of one song.
Yeah, I mean, he seemed like a fun guy. He seemed like he was enjoying. And really, that's all you need. Maybe you just need one good song. I don't even know if he wrote it. Did he write Margaritaville?
I think he did. And really, that was always my ultimate goal with music. I often thought to myself, like, man, all you really need, like, all I wanted to be was a one-hit wonder. Because I figured, like, okay, you get like a gold record. Those checks, those residuals would come in for a long time. You can probably like coast off of that one gold record. But
hold on, there is a second song I thought of. Cheeseburger in Paradise.
There you go. Cheeseburger in Paradise. So 2 songs. He built an entire empire off of 2 songs with cruises and restaurants and resorts. And, you gotta hand it to him. God bless him.
Yes. And so you wanted to talk a little bit about, or mostly about, music, particular musician, another empire builder, because this is just becoming a show where we're just like basic bitches. I think that's where, but also basic witches.
Yes.
Because I understand that is really the topic of interest that you wanted to bring up today, which it is the second week of the season of the basic witch. So what you were telling me a little bit about Taylor Swift, that there's something that she's ushering in the darkness.
Yes, well, as you know, Taylor Swift is one of my favorite topics, and she became one of my favorite topics very, very recently, I feel. Some might even say I'm a bit obsessed at this girl's rise to fame, and just the fact that she is such she's such a phenom right now, and there is such she developed such a following, and it got me thinking, like, this is kind of an inorganic rise when you think about it. Something's a bit off about it, because this was some girl from Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. I think she's a pretty girl, but okay, listen. She's got a bit of a weird face. I'm sorry. I always felt like she had a weird face.
She actually got really good plastic surgery done on her eyes, because I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of blepharoplasty, because I wish that I could afford it for my under eyes. But if you look up pictures before and after, she's had a very slight nose job, which was really well done. Just a slight nose job.
Mm-hmm. Just trimmed a little
she's
off.
Also had, if you look at her eyes, maybe a little bit of a chin too, a little chin action going on there. But if you look at her upper eyes, she had this thing they do, an upper eye blepharoplasty, and there's something else. I'm not an expert in this. But if you look, she used to have like no eyelids, and she used to have like, what's it? There's a name for it. People always talk about it in makeup, hooded eyes. She had very hooded eyes, and her eyebrows kind of like, there was a certain feature to her face that almost reminded you of like a fawn, like a deer. And yeah, she must have had her eyes are much wider and more open looking now because of the work they did, this eye surgery. But I have to say, whoever did the work is phenomenal, and I would love to know who did it, because that's the person you want to go to. But I think she's much prettier now. I'm not saying that she wasn't pretty before, but you're right. Like, she had a very distinct look on her face that sometimes people did not find as appeasing. And she was always
a very awkward looking girl. I felt, very tall, 5'11", just sort of gangly and awkward. And so I got to thinking, how did this?
Taylor's just used to all this hate from these like grown men.
I know. Here I am, 34 years old, sitting here in my
You're like, that girl has long legs, and I don't like it.
My little makeshift. No, my little makeshift studio here with my cat. But
I actually think I find her to be very pretty. I don't think that she's like super attractive, because I think there's a difference between like objectively good looking and attractive. But yeah, I think that she's pretty. Like, I think she's a pretty, yeah.
No, yeah. I'm not trying to
I would trade like mostly everything with her. I would be able to get a
doorknob.
I would have a doorknob. I'd have blepharoplasty. I'd have long legs.
But listen,
so she's not, living the worst life.
Her meteoric rise is a little suspicious, because again, this gangly, awkward-looking girl from Wyomissing, Pennsylvania, which is very close to like Amish country, I believe. Like yes. It's close to Reading.
Wyomissing's actually a little bit of an affluent area.
Okay, but nevertheless, Wyomissing, Pennsylvania. I mean, how many people can you name that came out of Wyomissing, Pennsylvania that are famous? Taylor Swift, right? She's probably the only one.
Yes.
Did she make some sort of Robert Johnson-esque deal with the Prince of Darkness himself? I'm talking about Lucifer, the devil, for all of this fame and fortune. Do you find her popularity to be organic? Because part of me questions that part. This all seems very contrived. Just the stadiums and how she's the biggest pop star in the world right now, but like more so than Beyonce, I would think, right? Like,
well, I'm glad you brought up Beyonce, because she's on tour and a lot of people are talking about her right now. And when you mentioned this to me, I actually did some research, as I do. And I went to the arbiter of truth in the 21st century, which is Reddit. And so I looked this up. I looked up Taylor Swift satanic, but I also believe I looked up Beyonce satanic. And there was an interesting conversation happening on the Beyonce subreddit, where a woman said that she bought tickets to go to the Beyonce show, and her family and coworkers, both family and coworkers, told her that she was demonic and satanic and likely a witch. So this is kind of a popular belief. But people were upset in this subreddit for Beyonce, the Beyonce subreddit, because they said, why is it always, they were trying to allude or try to bring it together and link racism to saying that Beyonce is a witch. And they then brought up the fact that they said nobody asked if Taylor Swift is a witch. So I think it's nice that we're having this equitable yes, we're having an equitable conversation about whether or not Taylor Swift is also a witch. So I feel like that is progress. I feel like we're moving to a better place where we can openly, it doesn't matter the person's race.
It doesn't matter your race, creed, color. Yeah. We are going to put you on trial.
Yes,
in a very Salem-esque fashion
and
because of your fame and fortune.
Exactly. But in my research, that I told you that somebody that is close to me was you mentioned Taylor Swift, and I told you that I was also receiving some messages from the underground about Beyonce being a witch or demonic as well. So I did receive some videos, and I happened to see one of the opening of her Renaissance show, and it reminded me of the Gotthard Tunnel ceremony, if you're familiar with that, in Switzerland.
Did I see a video of that? Was that... I think I know what you're talking about, but I'm not sure.
For people that are not familiar with this, in Switzerland, they opened this tunnel under, I guess, the Alps. I'm saying the Alps, but I could be completely wrong. I'm not a geographer, and as mentioned previously, I'm not an expert in anything. So take this with a grain of salt. But I do know about the Gotthard Tunnel celebration and ceremony. So they opened this tunnel, and they had this very new age dance performance that you can look up online. It's on YouTube. Just look up Gotthard Tunnel ceremony.
I saw it on Joe Rogan, I think, actually.
Okay, yes. And a lot of people, so it's become very popular. The messages from the underground that I receive actually showed me this about like 10 years ago when it happened, because the messengers I know are very on top of these things. But anyways,
I think I know who you're referring to.
Some people believe that the tunnel was not just a tunnel through, these different cities, but it was also possibly a portal to another dimension, which we should mention that CERN, the particle accelerator, is also located in Switzerland. So we're just deep in this. We're deep in the conspiracies. But as I was watching Beyonce or video, there's like this opening that looks like a tunnel. And she also was kind of dressed like the Metropolis woman, if you're familiar with the 1930s film Metropolis. But yeah. It's actually one of my favorites. But yeah, so and she has been known to be dressed as goddesses, Ishtar in the past. And so there is a little bit of background on that. But as I said, we are not talking about Beyonce, even though she's on tour. And I do want to make a quick mention that last week we talked about LinkedIn lunatics and how like all the worst people are on LinkedIn, like actively on LinkedIn, unless they're looking for a job. So there was a Daily Mail article that showed you like all the celebrities that there were at the Beyonce show in like Los Angeles. And I'm like, these are all the worst people on earth. Like these are all, it was like Meghan Markle and like all the Kardashians were there. And I'm like, this is literally, like all the devil worshipers. So, but all not that Meghan. Yeah, all the Luciferians. But anyway, so we are talking about Taylor Swift. I'm sorry that we had to take that little it's all rabbit hole about Beyonce, but it's all related. So
it's all related.
But like Beyonce, if you look at a lot of her imagery and and she even has an alter ego that she calls Sasha Fierce, that she like, she says that she channels Sasha Fierce when she performs. So there's a lot of different questionable content that you can look into. But anyways, we're back to Taylor Swift, who I feel like I feel like she's like Wendy the witch from Casper because she's like a little bit more palatable for the general public.
There you go. She's now. I don't get the reference honestly because it's
Oh, okay.
been a while since I've watched Casper the Friendly Ghost.
You're like
I
Karen,
vague
you were like 90 years old.
no. Hey, I vaguely remember the live action movies, but it's I just let me ask you this question. Here's the whole crux of everything. Do you find her meteoric rise to be, does it feel organic to you, or does it feel like something's a little off? Something is just like, huh, these stadiums packed with all these screaming girls who have memorized every single lyric, every syllable, and they're screaming it at the top of their lungs. And this latest tour that she's been on, this Eras tour, is like grossing the GDP of major countries. Like, this feels very orchestrated to me. Maybe it's just because we are in an age now where everyone questions everything and everyone thinks that everything is orchestrated. But I don't know. Again, going back to what I was saying earlier, this gangly, awkward looking girl who was certainly talented, but not like you know. She can sing some tunes and strum a few bar chords on her guitar, and she writes her own songs, I guess. But there's nothing there that is exceptional, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, she's not like Prince.
Yes,
So
yeah. Yeah, I understand what you're saying. And there is a part of me, there is, I like that we have this sometimes like this Dana Scully, Fox Mulder kind of like back and forth. But so let's look at this like objectively and factually and not from a schizophrenic vantage point. No,
I don't know how to do that. I'm sorry. I
you're like, I
apologize.
cannot channel that. I cannot
This is the
channel a
wrong
rational,
podcast.
but just saying like we need to weigh both sides, correct? So looking at objectively, I think that we see like a lot of the most popular people on Instagram. When I was sick in the hospital, I once like looked up like who were the top. This was what I wasted my time with when I was, on the edge of death. But I once looked up who the top Instagram accounts are. And one is like a rugby player or like a soccer player from Real Madrid or something that I don't know. But a lot of them are kind of like Taylor Swift, Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato. And I noticed that they all kind of fell into a similar category where and the category is actually like chronological. Let me explain. Where they were on the cusp of the internet generation. Like they were the last of the real corporate media that could create a following, if you understand what I'm saying. Like nowadays, my younger brother and sister, my sister Katie is 13, and she follows all these like obscure people on YouTube, and it changes constantly. But just a little bit older than her were a lot of people that grew up knowing Taylor Swift, knowing Selena Gomez from Disney, and also kind of our generation, we're a little bit older. So these people that have these very large followings, people like Taylor Swift, they kind of captured this certain era, no pun intended, but this era where they were capturing the older millennials, the Gen Z, before media completely evolved into this very niche market. And also, along with the millennials, there's also kind of the older crowd that also maybe they were the parents. So maybe you were 13 listening to Taylor Swift and your mom listened to Taylor Swift with you. Maybe your little cousin also then grew up listening to Taylor Swift. So it's kind of like these particular celebrities were the last of the mega stars, if that makes sense. Because nowadays, like I mentioned, Shadow,
Did you hear that?
No, I didn't.
Oh
No.
yeah, yeah. She let out a cry because I guess she hasn't eaten enough. But I'm sorry, I didn't mean for that to
No, that's
disrupt us.
okay. I thought it was Taylor Swift coming to haunt you, but
I wish.
but I think that like if you think about it that way, like they have a broad appeal because they were the last of the true media mega corporate superstars, if that makes sense. Most of them are they're actors, actresses, musicians. And like I said, nowadays you have people that have very, very small, everybody's like a niche market. And there isn't, I always say to people, like, I think about my little brothers. And I think if I asked my brother who's 21 who Brad Pitt is, he would be completely flabbergasted. Like, he would have no idea who Brad Pitt is. Whereas,
Wow.
like, we grew up like knowing he's also a little out of touch with reality. My brother, that's 20,
Okay.
a year older than him. But my little sister and my little brother, they have no idea who Brad Pitt
Because
is.
that's
Like
almost like
they,
saying you don't know who Jesus is. Not that I'm comparing Brad Pitt to Jesus, okay? I just want to get that out of the way.
yeah,
But
but who really
Jesus is
are the
handsome.
huge? I'm saying who are the really huge it people that are under 25 right now? Who can you think of that is the new it person?
The Island Boys.
I don't
Are
even know what the Island Boys
they a
are.
thing?
What is that?
Look up
I
the
don't
Island
even.
Boys. I think they're TikTok. They're these TikTok kids who have all these weird tattoos. They've
Oh,
got
okay. Well, I'm
like
gonna save
Travis
myself.
Barker level tattoos.
But yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that exactly proves my point though, because you're mentioning them and they probably have 100 million followers. And I don't even know who they are. And in 5 years, maybe no one will remember who or it'll be like a very obscure reference in a couple of years. So what I'm saying is like people like Taylor Swift, people like Selena Gomez, Justin Bieber, they're like the last bastion of those corporate megastars. And I just don't feel like that it appeal. There's no longer an it person. That person comes in and out because people's attentions have grown so impatient. But yeah, so as I was saying, I just think that if you look at it like that, and I think also Taylor Swift, why is she so popular amongst those stars? Because she's been mostly avoided any real controversy. She's pretty much she got herself a little bit involved in politics, but not to a level that's
Oh God! Did you see the clip of her? I don't know if this was on like a Netflix special or whatever, but she was like in tears because she could not support Donald Trump, and of course, she started out as a country artist. So there's still a lot of crossover there,
yes,
because
yeah.
she was sort of seen as this all-American girl, Americana from a small town in Pennsylvania. And so there,
I'm just like, which is like not country at all. Like I love like these people that just pretend like they're
country. I mean, Lee Heighton's country, Karen. It's all
yeah,
country. Any small town,
yeah, those both
it's country. But no, yeah, she did dip her toe into the political realm a little bit, which is annoying when anybody does that. But I am still kind of on the fence here. I think that she's a witch, and I think that her mission is it's all part of this collapse of Western civilization. It's all part of the depopulation agenda. And I'll tell you why. Because even though she has a very wholesome sort of good girl next door kind of image, all of her lyrics are about guys, all these guys that she has been with. And although her lyrics are not sexual in nature, obviously she's slept with all these guys, right? Like obviously that's
I wouldn't say obviously, but there is yes.
I think it's pretty obvious that all these guys that she's slept with them all. And that is the message that she is giving to all of these girls who are at her shows. It's like this is how you do it. You don't have be very flighty, be with as many guys as you can. It's never your fault, although she did come out with that song, I'm the problem, it's me, the anti-hero song, so I'll give her a little bit of credit there.
But was that anti-hero song about self-sabotage in other aspects, or was it specifically self-sabotage in romantic partnerships?
I think it was a little bit of both. Of both.
Okay. Yeah.
But generally speaking, I don't know. Like if I had a young daughter, I don't know if I would be cool with her listening to Taylor Swift. Like I'd rather her listen to like Motley Crue or something more wholesome, like Shout at the Devil.
Yeah, Motorhead. Yeah, like come on.
Yeah, Motorhead. Yeah, exactly. Because all of Taylor Swift's lyrics, they all promote promiscuity, which is really one of the cornerstones of the depopulationists, because they're against the nuclear family. They don't want anybody to settle down in a monogamous relationship with anybody. You know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, I understand what you're saying. So my actual conspiracy theory about Taylor Swift, that is just my own conspiracy theory that I've developed, is that she's actually a lesbian. That she's a lesbian. I don't think that she's actually straight. I think that she's a lesbian.
You know what?
And I'm not saying that I hope that's not like offensive to anybody. I just always get this I guess vibe that she's actually not like all these relationships seem so fickle to me. Like they don't seem like she's really invested in them. And I think that maybe, I don't know if she's openly gay to her close friends, but there's something about her that just makes that I just sometimes feel like she could possibly just be gay.
I think you might be right, because how could you date a guy like John Mayer with those guitar skills? I mean, I would probably, if I was dating John Mayer, I'd really try and hang in there and make it work, because he's got a lot going for him. So it's actually pretty like unfounded. But I feel like there was something that made me feel a little bit more like there was a reason why I believe that, but yeah, she just really seems to give me that vibe that she's Breaking
not
news,
really interested in men.
Heard it here first on Re-Education Camp, episode number 9. Taylor Swift is a lesbian witch, and that is 100% confirmed. We have laid out all of the evidence before you, and this is
all the evidence.
Yeah. This is what you should go with.
And it's, I just, like I said, I feel like because these relationships always feel very superficial to me. And perhaps, like you said, maybe that's just because she's promoting a promiscuous lifestyle. But I just always feel as if there's just something just not genuine about it. It feels like everything about Taylor Swift is manufactured. I don't feel like she leaves her house without being manufactured. And I think we also need to kind of delve a little bit back into her history. She once dated one of the Kennedy grandchildren. I'm not sure. I can't remember exactly. I don't know which Kennedy it was. And she proceeded to buy a property near, like a huge property right near his home.
Probably one of the globalist Kennedys.
Yeah, I remember it being like very absurd and almost like a little, and I don't know Taylor Swift personally, obviously. And like I don't know if she's a sociopath, but it gave me sociopath vibes when she bought this property. So there's something about her that just everything feels calculated, everything feels manufactured, everything is superficial. But also she released that like Netflix documentary. And I feel like all of that was also calculated, where she was trying to come off as authentic, as genuine, as relatable. But I just feel like she is incredibly manufactured. And there's a part of me that maybe she's not a lesbian, but maybe the vibe I get is that she is someone that can't have a real relationship. So maybe it's not really that she's a lesbian, but maybe it's that she cannot actually just a genuine relationship because she is so calculating. I just that is always how I feel about her. And I feel sorry if that's completely untrue. Like I genuinely feel bad if Taylor Swift would be upset about that or something that's not true. But there's something just so almost like diplomatic about her. I know I went to school with a girl who was very much like that. Her family had money, tons of money, but coal region money.
They're like
And
my family.
yes. There was something about her that she was just very kind. She was just a very kind girl. And I still really feel that way about her. She never had anything bad to say about anyone. And I really admire that.
Is
She
she
was the kind of
single?
person, no, she's married, but
Oh, I
she
don't
was
care
the
about her.
kind of person that she would compliment everyone and say nice things to you and just be kind and very diplomatic. Was involved in a lot of things, did the band, did sports, did this, did that. Uh, and, but I never feel like there was a real person behind her eyes. Like I just felt like, and I feel I like yet again with her, I feel really, really bad because I guess I just never really got to know her well enough. But there was something about her that was so diplomatic and so almost strange because it's almost like she was bred to not be a normal person. And there was just something just so, like I said, so calculated, so
Was there
smooth,
a darkness
so
behind her eyes?
not necessarily a darkness,
A lifelessness?
a lifelessness. Yes, just a lifelessness. Like there was just something about her that was just too sculpted, if that makes sense. And I feel like Taylor Swift, maybe because she became an artist so young. I have family that is from the YMSA, kind of like that area, and um, somebody told me that they actually saw her like perform when she was like very, very young, and they said, yeah, she was like pretty good. Like she was just kind of performing at this some kind of community event. Just nobody really even paying attention to her, but she was good. But I feel like she's the kind of person that was like, I don't know so much her parent. I know her dad was really involved in her work, kind of paid for some of that stuff and like owned a stake in the record label that she first got signed on. They moved to Nashville so she could be a musician. I mean, my parents wouldn't have moved anywhere for me to do anything.
I think
They're
mine
like,
would
know
have,
your
but
place. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, so they were very involved, but she also was like very young when she started. And I actually know somebody who went to school with her. So I'm curious to know what their thoughts are. I'll have to ask them the next time but she almost feels like that kind of kid that just was not a normal kid. Like that was an adult at 10 years old, if that makes
right.
sense. And just very determined. And like I said, that's just how I feel about it. Like I just
Do you
feel like
believe that?
she's
Do you think it's even natural for us as human beings, like for any one single human being to reach that level of fame? I mean, to be so, I mean, you got to figure Taylor Swift, if you dropped her on any street corner in the world, similar to like Donald Trump, who she hates, she would be known. She would be immediately
well, yes, she
recognized.
was just she was just at the beach that my family has always vacationed at, and she was. It's not a super popular place, and there was all these people that showed up just to take pictures of her while she was at this dinner at this beach location. And honestly, like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a part of me that's like, okay, Taylor Swift is a human being. Like, we put all of this on her. And hey, even if she's a witch, even if she's working for the Prince of Darkness, like, at some point in time, she was a human, right? Like, at some point in time,
Once upon a
she was,
time.
once upon a time, she was just like us. And it's, it's shocking to see all these, and really, it's not even Taylor. Here's the deal. Even I have no beef with Taylor Swift. I respect the hustle. She's amazing. her calculated, manufactured brand doesn't really slap with me, but more power to her. Her songs are terrible. Remember, she had that song in that video where it was like, if I was a man. Did you ever see that one? She dresses up a man. She dresses up like a man in like a suit and like just sings that like, if I was a man, people would do whatever I wanted if I was a man. And it's like, it's just, it's like embarrassing, but somehow like everybody just like acts like it's amazing.
I like stuff like 22. Like,
okay,
that was a good jam. I don't know about you, but
she was definitely better like way back then. I don't know what is like some of this stuff is just, I guess like you get so big, people are just like, yeah, Taylor, that's a great idea. Okay. But just sign my check, you dumb bitch. But
right.
Anyway, so Taylor Swift, like I don't have a beef with Taylor Swift as much. Like she's just out there, she's doing her thing, she's kicking it, like she's killing it. Somehow I have a beef with these freaks that decide on their beach vacation they have to go get a picture of a 33-year-old woman just going to a dinner. Like what the, like, sorry, I almost cursed, but like, what is wrong with you people? Like, what is like, here's the thing. I have been around people, and you have too, that are like living legends, right? Like that are people that people just worship at their feet. They eat up everything they say. They believe everything they say. And yes, there are some really nice people out there. Like I get a sense that Joe Rogan seems like a nice guy, but they are people. Taylor Swift is a person. Yes, she might be a princess of the darkness. She might be a witch. She might be summoning a coven to take over the world. But that said,
that's what the Swifties are.
That's what the Swifties are. But like at the same time, like she's just a person. Like who cares? Like you need to re-examine your life. If you're spending thousands of dollars to see a woman parade on stage to perform mediocre music, like I don't want to hear
your room. Yes, it goes back to clean your room.
Yeah, clean your room. Like, what is wrong with you people? And like the thing with Taylor Swift, like, yeah, like I don't get to now. Yes, go to the concert. That's fine. But like, you need to sit outside of the event because you couldn't get tickets and sing the songs. Like, you need to it's kind of like the last episode where we told people that were super into conspiracies, like believing Taylor Swift is a witch. They need to re-examine their life. If you are that into Taylor Swift, like you need to re-examine your life too. If you're into anything that much, like be into your own life like that. Okay. Like stop buying into it. But I think that goes back to
but our lives are so dull, Karen.
Our lives are so
uninteresting. We all gave up on our lives a long time ago. It's over.
COVID was the nail in the coffin.
Yeah.
But like, I think that also is part of the appeal, like why we see this huge Eras concert going on and why so many people are into that is because millennials are stuck in student loan debt. They are priced out of the housing market. They maybe can't afford to ever have children. They kind of don't want to have children because they want to be grown children the rest of their lives. And, you know, just add the plethora of that. It costs ridiculous. The price of food, the price of car, everything, anything moving your life forward, any progress that a normal adult is supposed to have has now become unattainable for most millennials. So I think that for some of them, it's like, let's just go back to when we were 22 and just listen to Taylor Swift. Like, I think that's part of that big appeal. Like, why has this tour? And I actually just saw, I don't know if it was Bloomberg, they ran an article about how the Beyonce, Taylor Swift, and another concert tour that I don't recall because they're not a witch of the darkness, but that is actually, when those tours end, that it's actually going to be like a detriment to our economy because there's just so much spending that is taking place around this. I know I was looking up dresses, and there were so many people that were like, I wore this to the Eras tour, and like, and I get it. Like, I understand. I completely understand. Like, I think that's tons of fun. Like, if you want to go with your girlfriend and go, but I think, like, why is it at this like almost unholy level of worship? Is because people are so disillusioned with their real lives that they have to buy into things like Taylor Swift and like create their identity around listening to this mediocre music. And I really don't have a problem with that. I think that's completely acceptable. But please, for the love of God, stop telling me like her music is avant-garde or that it's even good, like, or not necessarily good, because things can be like objectively sound okay. But please stop telling me it's art.
You can enjoy, you can recognize that something is trash and say like for example, we all have guilty pleasures that we eat. Like we know certain things are not good for us. I like to drive to the local Walgreens and I get those pints of Haagen-Dazs. I like the chocolate peanut butter, and I sit down on the couch and I eat the whole damn pint. Now I know that was terrible for me, and like I feel like her music is very similar. You know it's trash. You know it's garbage. Don't try and make it into something it's not. You can enjoy it, but recognize that it's trash. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Like, she had a song Style a couple of years ago. She put up this album. Too. Was it Red that she put out? And there was like a whole bunch of, and it was very interesting. I remember reading an article at the time because I worked in radio and we like played some of her songs. I tried to do a no Taylor Swift radio show. I tried to do basically a no anything that people
no
like radio show.
BS.
Yes, no, yeah. So she put out this album, and the way that the producers created the album was to specifically design a couple different songs that would become singles that appealed to different people. So the Style song specifically appealed to a certain kind of sound that people like. I can't remember exactly the category, but I fell into this category. Whereas there were other songs. Quality. Yes, there were other. Yeah, there might have been like some synth or whatever in it, which I'm kind of into. And like, so each single on the album, I'm sorry to burst anybody's bubble, but yeah, Taylor Swift isn't like just strumming her guitar coming up with all this stuff, honey. There's like a big team of people that specifically choose the music so that it is catchy, which is actually never catchy. Like, I think her music's like mostly not catchy. Like early, not recent, okay? Like, she's no Justin Bieber, okay? Like, don't even...
Or Justin Bieber, as my grandmother once said.
I will die on this hill. Anyway, so the album was actually... And, like, this is what people need to understand about the manufactured corporate nature of this. It's like... It's just like how food is created to, like we put red dye in foods, or we put certain sugars or certain maltodextrin into food to appeal to your certain flavors. That is basically what they've done to music. It's like GMO for music. And so that's what they did with that Taylor Swift album. So that particular song really liked. And that was pretty much the only thing on the album. But why did I like it? Because essentially like an algorithm and these Swedish producers got together and said, this is the sound we're going to go for this song, so that when this single comes out, it will be appealing to people that listen to this music. The next single will be appealing to people that listen to, rock music or something.
Again, this is like calculated war game.
Yes.
There's very little that's organic about this.
Yeah.
These artists, this genre, if you will.
Yes.
And
yeah.
One thing that I just wanted to mention to kind of wrap up this whole musical discussion here, it is very rare nowadays, and this is a very sad thing for me to say as a musician, but it's very rare that you are able to go see a band and they are performing 100% live, because I don't care who it is. anybody who's anybody is playing along to backing tracks. And essentially they've got their inner ear monitors in and they've got a click going in their ears. It's a metronome essentially because everything's timed out to the video on the back on the huge screen in the back. And a lot of what you're hearing is not it's pre-recorded. Even bands that I love, like Motley Crue, for example, there was a recent controversy with them where there was a clip online where Tommy Lee, you heard drums, but Tommy Lee wasn't at the drum set yet, and he had to like rush and get behind the drum set. Nikki Sixx, the bass player, apparently he doesn't play a lick of bass live. It's all pre-recorded. Everything is completely pre-recorded. The only person that was playing live was the damn guitar player, Mick Mars, who has struggled with this rare spinal condition. Like he could barely stand up the way it is. He's the only one that's actually playing an instrument live. That was one of the reasons why he left, allegedly. So anyway, and then you hear these stories of, I forget who it was, but this one band, popular rock band, had to cancel their show because the laptops got lost in transit. That's the point where we're at, where bands are canceling shows because they lost their laptops. They can't go on stage without a chain of MacBooks linked up with Pro Tools running, and everything is mapped out. And we're at a very inorganic time in music, and I really
in the
can't.
World.
Yeah, in the world in general,
people
everything
are so
is just
inorganic. Our food is inorganic. Our lives are everything is manufactured. And look at people on Instagram. Are we any different? Like, are our lives not as manufactured and what we put out? And even it's amazing seeing the influencers when they try to be like, I remember there was, I just got to say this. It's horrible, but I have to say there was a mommy influencer who her child was dying, right? And I'm sorry, I was going through like some serious medical stuff at the time, right? I was literally in the hospital. And I remember seeing this, and this mommy influencer put her phone on the ground in the hospital bathroom to take a picture of herself sitting on the floor crying in the hospital bathroom. We are at peak insanity in this country. And everybody said how wonderful, how they were also, and I understand, like, yes, I understand. I have empathy that like her child really was dying. This is real. Her child was really dying. This isn't like reality. This isn't a fake show where her child's dying and she's plastered, but she feels the need to put out a photo. Number one, I would never sit on a bathroom floor and I would never put my phone on a hospital bathroom floor, not sit on a hospital bathroom floor. I would do it in my own bathroom. But I mean, like the hospital bathroom, I would never sit on the floor in the hospital bathroom, especially when your child is in like an incubator. And then to set up your phone, your baby is dying and you need to make sure you put on a timer to take a selfie to put it on your Instagram so your followers can see it. Like,
did she get any likes?
Millions.
There you go. She got that mission accomplished. She got that serotonin boost that she needed in the midst of all this.
Can you imagine if that was like also like a sponsored post, sponsored hashtag sponsor? I mean, like that's at the level that we are at in our world where we are. I mean, I've literally sat there and thought about it myself. Like I take walks a lot. And there's some mornings where I'm like, oh, that's cool how the sun's coming through the trees. Maybe I'll take a photo of that and share it. And I'm like, why? What the hell is wrong with me?
Yeah,
you know what
I feel
mean?
compelled to do the same thing. And it's like, how about I just enjoy this magical moment that the creator has, blessed me. I'm alive here. I'm looking at this beautiful sky, this beautiful sunset. The fuck do I need to post a picture of it on Zuckerberg's platform for? It makes no sense.
Yeah. And it almost makes you feel weird the more, it's funny we got into this point. I know we're going to wrap things up, but like the less and less you use social media, the more you go on and it feels so absurd when you see people posting. I've noticed that like I go on Messenger like shows you people's stories because sometimes people message me on Messenger, and that's like what I use mostly. I really don't use, like, I don't log on to my actual accounts very much, but I'll see like the same people like posting ad nauseum, and it almost feels strange. Like the less you post, I'm telling you, the less you post and the less you actually consume social media, the more it seems like the theater of the absurd. Like it'll start to seem very odd to you. You're like, why are people sharing? And I'm all for. I don't look down on people. Like I've shared really goofy, stupid things and like whatever things. But what I am saying is like it really starts to make you feel like a little strange. Like you're almost like observing it as like an anthropologist who's looking back 100 years and wondering like, well, why is this person sharing an image of the zucchini bread they're about to eat? Like, why did they do that? Like, what exactly was, like, why, and obviously, like, I think a lot of it will come back to what we always know of people. And most of it is like a mating ritual. So,
yeah, essentially.
Like most of it is just like when they show you the birds and they're like, the men are like doing the dance and you're like, well, you see this man stood in front of a mirror, took this selfie after he went to the gym. And that was part of a mating ritual that people did in the year 2023. And this woman decided to take a heavily filtered image, thirst trap image that showed her cleavage just so. And that was also a way that the women would, try to attract a mate. And so that's how it feels. It really does feel like the less and less you consume it, the less you look at pictures of Elizabeth Hurley, the more odd it will seem.
Well, I'll say this, and this is going to, be a bit, would ironic be the word, since we're obviously recording this podcast via the internet in different states. The best thing that could happen to our society right now would be for that big solar flare to come and just zap the internet. It cannot get repaired for months and months and months. I know that this would pretty much disrupt every facet of life, but man, if we were not exposed to that Wi-Fi radiation and these devices now were completely useless and we had to go outside, that would be, oh my Lord, what a great, now that's a great reset right there. The internet being zapped for at least a good 6 months. We need at least a good half a year without any sort of anything. It all must go for 6 months. Our brains need to be wringed out like a sponge, and that's what it'll do. It. So Klaus Schwab, I'm calling on you to bring on the cyber pandemic. I've been waiting, salivating ever since I heard about this.
Maybe that's why Bill Gates wants to like throw dust in the solar system. Like he wants to like throw dust in the ionosphere, and just so that it'll stop. Maybe it's really that. Maybe it's to like shut down.
Well, he did release the GMO mosquitoes here in Florida recently. I saw the helicopter.
What a guy!
So, but that's a story for another day. But hey, listen, I've got some Domino's pizza, Karen.
All right, yes. I feel like I faded into the darkness with Taylor Swift because like the sun has like gone away, and
it got really creepy. I mean, it's kind of cool.
Yeah,
it's a very witchy vibe, going on in the background there. I dig it. I like it. Very appropriate for this time of year. But listen, if you've hung in there this long, we appreciate you. Give us a like, give us a follow on Rumble. And anything that you would like to wrap up with, Karen? Any final thoughts, like on Springer?
Any final thoughts? No, I just hope that everyone has a great week. And I'm just saying stuff that is really dumb. I just love and light. Love and light. That's what I'm about.
Well, on that note, take good care of yourselves and your families. Remember to stay grounded, and we'll see you sometime right here next week on the Re-Education Camp.